It was like a 1.5 minute.
Yeah, this is good. This is two. Video better. Very good.
No, it's about 1.5 minutes. Maybe up to 2.5.
Okay, everybody, we're just waiting for one last speaker to come, and then we're going to begin. I'm going to say, please grab your beer and momos and make your way here. Make yourself comfortable. We are going to be closing the bar and the room celebration. So, in another 5 minutes, I think we should be ready.
Looking for feedback from निकालेगा ना नया बैग लेगा तो ये मिलेगा You looking for a better bag? नहीं 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 This is the better bag I bought. नहीं ठीक है यार मस्त आएगा मेरा इतना चलता यार देखो देखना है ना आई नो 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 मेरा लाइट है मेरा आई लव दिस वन बिकॉज़ इट टाइट है नो मेरा टाइट दिस हैज हाई क्वालिटी ओह या हां इधर बस खाली नहीं बट दिस फ्यूचर हो गया फिक्स है ना ये मेरा I like this one because my laptop is here. Like everything else. This is my father. Someone gifted my father because he did his second sort of degree from university. But thank you so much. मेरी मैंने काफी हेवी कर पेपर रख के अच्छा सारे
I'll give Andy full credit. They gave me a very nice light laptop. I stopped using my Mac only.
तो मेरा Mac ही नहीं है
मेरा Mac है नहीं है, मेरा Dell है, but it's a light one.
मेरा Air नहीं है मेरा Air है और मेरी सिस्टर को भी मीटिंग करनी है शी वर्क्स विद बेन
Oh, how is she doing?
she's doing well हाँ right
Where is she? Bombay?
no Delhi
Okay. She's married now?
yeah
Oh,
Aditya you met the guy
And what's she doing now? Like
he is so basically cooking ही कर रहा है एक बुक लिख रहा है
हाँ.
एक वो इसने वो बनाए प्लेइंग कार्ड बनाए
हाँ.
बेसिकली प्लेइंग कार्ड ट्रम्प कार्ड नहीं he's made a card game basically
Okay.
on the मतलब mythology वाले उसमें characters पे
Interesting.
and then he so Topo Entertainment करके कंपनी खोली है उसने
हाँ.
apart from that he is also मतलब दो तीन चार काम और कर रहा है
काफी creative बंदा है.
बहुत
Nice guy.
क्योंकि मैं मानसिक बोलता हूँ ये क्रिएटिव ज़्यादा है बिजनेस का बनी वो खून नहीं है इसमें हमारे जैसा
ठीक है. You need balanced partnerships in life.
Exactly.
And what's she doing at Bain? General.
सही चल रहा है
Same है Harold.
चीजें मतलब कुछ लिखा ना कि आज कहाँ है आज बॉम्बे है या ये मेरे को ऑर्डर मे बी नेक्स्ट टाइम
I don't think I've ever met her.
नो मैंने आई चेक दिया मैंने कहा तुमने बताया नहीं कभी वो इतना पागल बंदा
What did she say? I want to
बोले
hear.
हाँ मैंने बोला नहीं मैंने कहा वो बिल्कुल पागल है मैंने कहा हाँ इतने बोला आई थिंक ही सेड ही सरप्राइज दैट ही नेवर टोल्ड मी बात ही मेरी भाई कभी लेकिन हाँ वो तो बहुत पागल है आदित्य इतने दिन रह कैसे गया
Yeah. I don't want to
I
go.
told you he called me right
Yeah, what happened then?
so he called
It won't take me. Doesn't matter. He called the issue.
so he called me and he was like oh, we're going to meet up yeah, whenever you hear meet up like but this place this organization has got into not even names this organization has made waves and we are the only one of the three who be shortlisted now and there are these people who are putting in money and this thing and but now we're thinking we'll increase the ticket size so would you be interested but काफी लोग लेंगे महिंद्रा and everybody is
So,
on वो जैसे
That
बोल रहा
thing
है
is most likely not going to take off. What he's got shortlisted for.
one out of three people
What he's got shortlisted for is most likely not going to take off.
हाँ अच्छा
Yeah, I mean, that's like where I'm really trapped. I actually, I made a mistake. And there were some people that we screwed and they wrote a letter. And they asked me to sign it. And I said, agreed to sign it.
I remember
And it's become a mess now. It's like reached to the level that I was in DC and people were like, oh, I know you. And I was like, okay, crap.
I know you
Like,
well your letter has reached there
my letter is exactly where you think it is. So it's become a massive issue. And now, so therefore, they want to clear up all the stuff to me and everybody else, but they also want withdrawal.
of the letter
Yeah.
but are they paying you I need to charge double
I don't want to say anything there.
no, but you need to charge double the money I'm just telling you
I mean,
Capital
I just wish it had gone away. I just wish I had not signed it and taken the loss also.
why
You know how it is when somebody gets raped and the other person, then the whole world gets around and actually deals with you, no?
no but they
No.
sympathize. You
No,
have to
there's no
use the
sympathy. There's no sympathy. Right now, I'm being another treated as villain. No kidding you. So I truly regret it. No kidding. The only saving grace I have right now is that my bosses in the place I work right now, have received information independently from other sources like Dafra and others about the matter, and therefore they don't doubt me. But I wish I had never even said the words, spoken the words, signed anything, because it's like I was away from all of that, and you don't even want to know how badly I've been messed up, like at that crap. So I mean, just like
really but it was all the members who took that decision right
what members?
everybody who was funding him everybody who was on the board took that decision of signing the letter and sending it right
No, they didn't. No. So consultants who had not been.
okay yeah no but remember like everybody was pissed right on the board of the
It's
things
become too big. I don't want to really. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to say anything because I don't want anyone to say it's later because now it becomes negative. Like the people who I respect and who respected me have said to me, "Kaam bigada."
People you know, people I know, people who are not even formally connected.
People who were bored.
Huh?
People who were bored.
No, no, not people who are bored. And
Whose favor are they?
that guy, they're like, this happens in non-profits all the time.
People who
not,
are bored too?
not people who are bored. Not people who are bored.
What the name bored to?
No, no, no. Not people. I know whom you're talking about. The people are saying like, you've spoiled this work. You should have been more uh, tolerant because this happens in startups all the
That
time.
you don't get paid.
I'm like, boss, that's true. That is true. I've been in startups like that.
But you don't get paid.
Yeah, yeah, it happens in now non-profit. I said, but it happens in those non-profits and startups where the owner or the founder takes the team together.
That's a good hard work.
No, no. We all gonna take this pain because we are there. Then we are all like, yeah, we'll take this pain. I told the person, भाई इन्हें झाड़ू कराए राउंड में बैठे हो मीटिंग करी मैंने भी कराया but it's not like that. Anyway, momos.
हाँ, that's तेरी जगह है.
So before we begin, I just want to start with a quick round of introductions, and then we're going to go into introducing the speakers, and then we're going to start the presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Meena, who's going to
Somebody
tell
said
you what
this
this
is going to
space
pick momos.
is and why you're here tonight.
Hi, I'm Tina, and I welcome you all of you to Space and Pecha tonight. And we all are here in Vihara Innovation Campus. A lot of things are going on here, so I would like to go through you guys about, like, I'll tell you everything about whatever we are doing in Vihara Innovation Campus. So I'll start with CKS Consulting. It's a user-centered design and innovation consulting firm. So we try to understand user systems and markets to really come up with, design new products and services. And then our frequent work in healthcare sector lead to the, we set up a Bihar Innovation Lab supported by Gates Foundation, which basically, focuses on maternal and child healthcare. And then we have Read and I. It's a CKS initiative in partnership with USAID, which is addressing the challenges of early child reading. And we are collaborating with public and private sector stakeholders to develop innovative and effective interventions in early grade reading. Then we have Startup Tunnel. It's a co-working space in the campus. It facilitates new growth enterprises to launch and run their business without, with operational hassles of running an independent office. Then we have Dirty Lab. So we have recently been working at setting up the Dirty Lab, which emerged out from our research in the sanitation sector. So here the idea is to work as a maker space where we can prototype and iteratively, develop toilet solutions that are grounded in field research and user behaviors. So we are looking for contacts of material suppliers, as in clay, silicon, plaster, wood, then prototypers, mold makers, and local porters and craftsmen. So if you guys think you can, leverage, like you can, if like help us in any way with some of your contacts, please do that. You can like contact me or number down. So yeah. So I'll give this mic to, I'll give this mic to Priyanka Ahuja, who is heading Adyanta School of Leadership and Innovation, which is organizing this event. Hi guys, I do not actually head the Adyanta program, but I work as the marketing and the planning person for Adyanta program. To start with, I'm here to give the introduction about what Adyanta program is and what they actually do. So Adyanta program originated during the Scott conversations at the Design Public Holiday, which we originally host in a year. And Geeta and Aditya, who are the people behind conceptualizing the entire thought process of Adyanta, they would say that Adyanta School came into existence with the painstaking areas they've had at CKS by hiring resources at CKS and while managing them. So some would be very good at some skills, some would be good at some skills, but there would be not one good person who would be great at all the skills. Also, we've had some clients at CKS who would say that why don't you guys start to impart some trainings for our human resources? And that's how Aditya says that Ajanta School and the entire idea was formalized. So here we are. It's been an year of academic operations. We've had 4 students. Uh, as we say that Ajanta School is primarily a school for future leaders, future innovators, and future entrepreneurs. Two of our students are already entrepreneurs in the domain of higher education. Uh, this time around, we have taken an initiative to announce short-term courses for all those working professionals who, for somehow, some reason or the other, cannot attend the full-time program. These skills are primarily aimed at these courses and skills are primarily aimed at skills like social media skills, your startup life, which are primarily skills about how do you open up your own entrepreneurial venture, skills about system thinking, so which will entail human resources and other stuff, and other skills like that. So right, and also light coding, which I forgot to mention right now. And right now we are looking for people who could actually curate and conceptualize our coding course. So it's a shout out to all you guys who are interested in coding or who are already working in the domain of coding. If you guys could help us, if you're interested to get in touch, teach in some way or the other at the Arianta School, get interested in conceptualizing the course around coding at the Arianta School, get in touch with me. I'm right here. I would like to hand over the mic to Shiv right now, who's gonna speak to you. Hi.
Hey guys, I'm Shiv. I'm from Delhi Makers. So we're just an open, organic community that meets up every couple of weeks, and we make things. That's all that we do. And we have people who are engineers, we have people who are designers, we have people who are entrepreneurs, and they just sort of meet up in this very room, and we decide that we're going to make one specific thing. We've done everything from 3D modeling to making toothbrushes, then move to 3D printing. It's a lot of fun, and you guys should definitely drop by whenever we have our next meet, and I hope you have a good time.
Thank you. Okay, so just a quick couple of instructions for everybody. I hope everyone's got their beer and momos. The toilets are right down behind you in that direction in case you need them. I request everyone to sort of move as close to the stage as possible because we do have limited space, and usually we like doing this outdoors, but it's summertime and it's not that comfortable anymore. So can I please just request everyone to just come a little bit closer so that people standing around at the back can also find themselves some seats. Okay, so the hashtags for tonight, in case there are any people who are tweeting in the audience, as you can see behind me, Jelly Makers and PKND. We are also live streaming the presentations. If you want to sort of shout out to anybody who isn't able to make it tonight, it's off the CKS YouTube channel. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. So yeah, it's the first time we're live streaming a Pecha as well. So congratulations to us. We also have a few of our speakers today, Pecha, Mehta, Vinda Gokhale, and everybody from Studio Wood, who have brought down some of their things that they made that are in the display area outside. So when the presentations are over, if you'd like to have a look, please go ahead and do so. We've had 2 speakers who dropped out tonight, so Rekha and Manas are not able to be with us today for various reasons, but we're terribly excited about the lineup that we have today. We have some of our youngest Pecha speakers ever, so I really think it's going to be quite an excellent event. So just to give you a bit of a background, as you all know, we've spent the last many decades sort of embedded in this revolution of information technology. But it seems like we're on a cusp of a new kind of revolution that has nothing to do with the sort of intangible exchange of bits, but more to do with the actual physical making of things. And my colleague Aditya, who isn't able to be with us tonight, was essentially looking at how this is a shift from informational abundance to material abundance. And I think it's a really important sort of point in time for us to be asking this question in terms of where we're headed as a sort of society when it comes to people who are just able to make and replicate and things like that. But more fundamental to that is just the idea of making. And in many ways, everybody here is a maker, and it has not so much to do with new technologies, digital, electronic, or otherwise. As you will see, the lineup of speakers that we have today come from a very varied background, use various kinds of materials, but will be able to speak to one another because fundamentally they are all makers. So what I would now do is just have a quick round of introductions to the speakers. And I was hoping that all the speakers could sort of sit on these 11 chairs that have been put up here in order. So if you don't mind relocating, it'll only be easier because the presentations are going to go one after the other, and if you're sitting one after the other, you're not going to miss your spot to get up and make some. So we're going to start with Dhruv Nagpal, who has been an instrumental member of the Delhi Makers community. He's interested in ways we learn after graduated structured learning. We've had several conversations about the limitations of traditional education, and I'm sure that he's going to tell us, right? No. I'm going to excuse everybody, and then the presentations are just going to run, and no one's going to disturb you for like an hour. So yeah, that's true. He's essentially going to be talking about maker spaces as alternative education spaces. Following Dhruv, we have Araya, who I was introduced to by my colleague Neeta, who also sadly not here with us tonight. But Araya is a 16-year-old baker who fell ill a couple of years back and took to baking during that time. And so she's going to take us through her story and her journey out of illness to baking. We then have Linda Mathur, who is with the Studio Wood Collective. All four of them are here tonight with us, but unfortunately only one of them can speak. Studio Wood is looking at refurbished furniture, and you can see some of their work on display on the stairs right behind us. After Brinda is Troy. I hope you're keeping a track of who you're behind. Troy, also known as Shirshendu, popularly known as Troy, is an entrepreneur and also a member of the Delhi Makers community. He runs two enterprises, Solid Dry as well as Studios. His partner from Studio is also here tonight. So if you have any questions on that. It's kind of interesting to see both the platforms because one of them is very sort of rooted in 3D printing and new kinds of making technology, and the other one is more sort of a platform for people who make. So watch out for his presentation. We then have Mark Medon, who comes from Kohima in Nagaland, and he's going to be talking about home improvement, different sort of DIY techniques and methodologies. We then have Diksha Mehta, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a couple of years now. She designs invitations for weddings and other events of a similar nature. And when we were talking, we were essentially looking at the frivolous nature of weddings and celebrations and what does it really mean to be making for contexts like that. I don't know if she goes over this in her presentation, but she has worked on a reality TV show. Which I think is quite a funny situation to be in, not to be making for. We then have Abhimanyu Sehgal. Do you want to put your hand up? Yeah. Abhimanyu's youngest Pecha speaker. He, I think he spends a lot of his weekends dismantling things and making other things. And I think in many ways he's quite inspirational. And his presentation has come together really well. And from what I hear, he didn't let his mom help him with the presentation at all. Rinda Gokhale, who was also introduced to me by Nita, is a jewelry designer. You can see some of her work outside again. She works with paper, very different from sort of the usual kind of jewelry that we're out there to buy. And she's been doing this, or she started doing this as a hobby in 1992 and has now moved on to doing this professionally for various kinds of situations and people. We then have Rajiv, who's from Bakeda, who I actually haven't spoken to as yet, but thanks for being here. And Bakeda is also a kind of space that we're sort of looking to, or that they're looking to turn into a sort of maker space for people. And from what I hear, they have a great sort of wood workshop. So that would be really, really nice to sort of have a look at. Sneha, who works with the Bihar Innovation Lab in this very campus, is an industrial designer from California College of Arts. And she's going to sort of take us through sort of making projects that are really sort of enjoyable and not necessarily within the sort of economy of buying and selling and so on. And then at the end we have a collaborative presentation by Ravi and Shefali. Shefali is a pastry chef and Ravi is a filmmaker, and they're going to be presenting to us together, which is going to be quite sort of interesting to see how filmmaking and baking come together like that. So Dhruv, we're going to begin with you. We have all your slides, auto timed. There's a mic for you. When you're done, pass it to the next presenter. I request everybody to sort of have their telephones off and maybe to keep your volumes low so that you can hear all the speakers. Can everyone hear me at the back? Yeah. Another thing, if you could just hold your mic very close so everybody can hear you at the back. Just a quick tip for all our speakers. Dhruv?
Hello, my name is Dhruv, and I'm going to be speaking about maker education and how maker spaces help in that. Now, I'm not an expert on this, so if I have anything wrong, or just call me out and yeah, say that's wrong. I'd love to discuss things about this. I was not expecting that one slide. Odd. So this is John Cleese, and he has some interesting things to say about creativity. He says to be creative, you need to play. And what this means is you need to be in that sense where you can experiment and make mistakes. And when you're a kid, you can do this. You're not afraid. But then you go to school and you're told what to do and how to do it, and you kind of become more adult and forget how to play, forget how to be experimentative, right? Now this isn't such a bad thing. You need some discipline. But when you go into the real world, things aren't like that. The person doesn't, like, your boss doesn't tell you how to do things. He tells you, okay, go do this, and you have to figure out your own way. You have to experiment and do your own things and make sure you get there. And so one of the most important things that makers learn how to do is learn. They don't struggle with this because they're first faced with uncertainty and problems, and they learn how to get over this. And this is a great quote from Alvin Toffler, and thanks for their hearing it. It's not here though. So the first time I was introduced to making and this hacker was actually my mother. Now, she bakes brownies, and I guess she likes doing it, but mostly I like eating them, so she makes them. And her process was very maker-like, very hacker-like. She used to experiment, she used to go through it, and one of the important things makers are good at is this iterative process. So this is the Gossamer Condor. This was the first dude to do human-powered aviation. So he did a figure of 8 and he won a load of money. How he did it was by iteration, doing a lot of versions of playing fast. This is the first automobile made by Carl Benz, and he was really obsessive and passionate about it. And this is one of the more important things about makers, their love for making. And so they figure out different problems, and they share. They love to share and pass this knowledge around. And one of the greatest open source and sharing projects is the RepRap. This is a 3D printer. Mostly when you get to hear about them, they're about some revolution, but they revolutionize basically the way hardware is shared, and it greatly improved the hardware of 3D printers. That is the Lotus 25 made by Lotus by Colin Chapman, and Ferraris hated these guys because they were makers, they were small, agile thinkers, and they trounced Ferrari for ages and all the other big teams. Another famous maker company who revolutionized the PC market was obviously Apple, and Steve was a maker, and by Steve I mean the was. He designed and made both the Apple 1 and 2, and a major inspiration for him was the Homebrew Computer Club. And it's an early version of a makerspace, and to me, makerspaces are places where you change ideas and encourage curiosity, like the Martians. You know. But that's the ideal thing about a makerspace. It's not the place, it's the, ooh, that's the wrong slide. There's supposed to be another slide. But basically, it's about the exchange of ideas and the people and the community, not the place. Now, what this was meant to be about was the transfer of skills. Because there's diverse people in a makerspace, you get transfer of skills from one place to another. So the first image was that of a jacquard loom. That was the first programmable device used to make silk for the French aristocracy. And the second is the PSLV, which launched a couple of days ago, or yesterday, 26 out of 27 launches. And without the programmable jacquard loom, you wouldn't have the SpaceX. So yeah, we have a lot to thank those guys. Okay, this is the transistor. This is another thing. It was made at Bell Labs, and the culture of people over there, they were really creative, allowed what to do, and they made something that changed all our lives, the transistor. So makerspaces are like Batman. They're the hero you need. And the community, which is you guys, need to participate and direct this makerspace. Without directing it, it'll just lose its way. There are a number of makerspaces already in India. Chennai, Bangalore, there's one in Dharamshala, there's one, well, we're trying to set up one in Delhi, and hopefully that's what this is attempting to do, to try to encourage people to come here, share their projects. This is the Delhi makerspace of makers, and we need other people to come and share their passions, share their hobbies, share their interests. Without that, things won't move forward. We can get a space later, we can get 3D printers and everything else later, but without the people here, it's not going to work. And yeah, this was just the last slide saying, it's not about getting rid of schools, it's about promoting makerspaces with schools and having that ethos of hackers, of solving problems and moving ahead and not being afraid to try things. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Raya Said. I'm 16 years old and I survived cancer. So I fell in 2011 when I was detected with osteosarcoma, which means cancer. At the time, I wasn't aware of the fact that I had cancer. My mom told me that it was just a tumor that had to be treated with chemotherapy. The treatment almost went on for a year. entire day to make and learn the rainbow cake with a little help from YouTube. I tried two types of rainbow cakes. One was a tall one with 7 different layers, which I made first. Another one in which I just threw all the batter in together at once, and while it rose together, the colors merged. During my treatment, a foundation called Make-A-Wish Foundation visited the hospital. They asked me for three things that I may have wanted. So they would fulfill any one of the three. So I asked one for the hospital bed to rotate 360 degrees because I was pretty bored on it, and a baking class with a professional, and the third I don't remember. So they made me a chef for a day at the Hotel Radisson Blue. They gave me a chef coat with my name on it. Their entire staff referred to me as Chef Araya for that day. It felt amazing. Recently, my Masi got a cookbook published, which contains all the secret family recipes. The book is called the Sood Family Cookbook. She included my recipe of the banoffee pie in it, and I got a lot of appreciation for it on the book launch party. And I got some wonderful reviews too. Another one of my favorite cakes is the 3-layer chocolate cake I made for my friend's birthday recently, which I decorated with a light to dark, dark to light pink icing. I also made a chocolate Kit Kat cake, which was filled with gems and colorful sprinkles, which I tied up with a bow so it doesn't fall apart, for my friend's little sister's birthday. I thought of doing something special for Mother's Day. I wanted a way of surprising the mothers who do so much for us. So, um, So basically, I wanted a way to surprise our mothers who do so much for us. So I made a vanilla cupcake, which when cut open, has a surprise heart inside. So I had to make sure everyone cuts the cupcake to the right place from where the heart will show. So I marked it with a line of sprinkles on the top. The last cake I made was just day before yesterday for my sister's birthday. I put my various hearts on it. I love baking and I feel like I'm in my own little world when I bake. Okay, hello, good evening. I hope all the viewers have kicked in now and you're ready to see some exciting and interesting projects around furniture. I'm Vrinda Mathur and the four of us right here run the Studio Wood Collective. And I'll start with introducing Studio Wood to you, which acts as the parent company. So Studio Wood has been in the business since '99 and they've been primarily running as a furniture manufacturing unit. So we work in collaboration with architects and designers who give us the designs. So we've worked on projects with residences, hotels, restaurants, institutions, and the like. And I stepped in this year. I graduated last summer, and I stepped into the factory this year, and I just looked around and I thought to myself, what can I do here? What can I change? Because I wasn't much of a maker before I joined. So I wanted to bring in a design element into the factory since it's been running completely like a manufacturer vendor sort of a system. So now 2014, I looked at all the stuff we have lying around in the factory. So we had a number of old samples from different units happening. We had some leftover wood. We had a lot of stock furniture happening. So I decided that, okay, let's reuse this. Let's do something with this, the existing stuff, instead of asking the parent company for more money and more material. So the idea was, how do we do this and when do I start? So that's when I thought of
doing this as a collaborative project, bringing friends together from the design background and forming the Studio Wood Collective. Now, the Studio Wood Collective is going to reuse and refurbish all the old pieces in the factory, which are maybe broken down chairs, we've got ample number of drawers, we've got some old cupboards and stuff like that, and completely redesign them with a new language. So here's the team. There's me right there. There's Ghazal, who's a communication designer. There is Navya, who's a space designer, and Sahaj, who's an architect. So it's a crazy mix of people coming from different backgrounds and trying to work on one product. So initially it was like, okay, Sahaj will go completely minimalistic. Okay, what do? I want straight lines. And Ghazal was like, I want prints, I want quirky, I want color. Navya and I were mostly sort of, okay, we can do this and we can do that as well. So the idea at the end was, love what you do, make what you love, and sell what you make. So this has been the motto of our organization. This right here is the little mood board which talks about what and how we want to do with the old product. So you can see there are a number of sketches, there's some table legs changing, we've got some material. This is all taken off the net, this is not ours. Anyway, so this acts as a mood board to give you guys an idea of what we're doing. And now this is the process that we follow at the collective. So here you see a shelf, this is a piece which was originally a shelf, and this is a process that we follow. So we inverted the form, gave it a glass top, we added elements over here, and now it acts as an interesting lounge table. We've got a sample here. I don't know, but if all of you know what a King's beer bottle looks like, this is what it is. And we added an old leg chair to it and turned it into an interesting light piece. Moving forward, we've got another similar. Okay. So again, these are all old samples picked up from the parent company. And we're doing something or the other, breaking the piece, changing the upholstery, mixing mediums. So if we have something in wood, we're maybe adding metal to it, we're adding glass, we're adding some interesting prints. And even the prints, we've got a couple of friends who are from the textile business and they're helping us to go do screen printing or do some interesting textiles. The people that we want to sell our idea is newlyweds, people who are moving into new houses, people who are moving out of their parents' houses. And that's the kind of audience that we're looking at. So all of you 25, 30-year-olds who want some new crazy furniture, please come to us. We're launching very, very soon. We're coming up in August and we are going to be presenting all our furniture through a yard sale or a garage sale or the concept of the same. And basically all the furniture pieces that we're doing are independently designed. You will not see a collection. You will not see, okay, 3 brown colored pieces, 2 lights which look the same. It's not going to be like that. So that's Navya. She's going to be standing like that at the exhibition and guiding you of what will look like what and what you can find where. So these are just some snippets on what the idea or the concept we have for our exhibition. That's Ghazal and that's me. We're going to be there too. So I hope to see you all there. And along with the exhibition, our idea is to create an entire experience around it. So we've got a musician in the house. Sahaj is an architect and a musician. So the idea is that when people come to our exhibition, they're not only looking at our products, but they're also having a good time. So we want, like there's beer right here, we want to have give that entire fun experience, keep the environment very, very open. So Sahaj will be singing, we'll have beer, we'll have our product, and all of us are going to be there to tell you more about it. Another aspect that we've added to the collective is the importance of collaboration. So we've collaborated with a company called Sowing New Futures, which is a for-profit organization and runs in Najafgarh with victims of sex trafficking, who will be actually helping us in doing our packaging and tags and all of that. We have 60 seconds on the clock and the team is right here. We're going to do a small demo for you of one of our products. Quickly. So this is exactly the light that you saw and how we've conceptualized this. This is a prototype. So we have a broken chair leg that we used, and we have the King's beer bottle right there. So any of you who are traveling to Goa can get us more King's bottles, and we'll be doing this for you. Next we have is the table. So, okay, so quickly, we had a metal frame, and we added screen printed rubber wood to it, and on the bottom we have a glass. So when you actually view it in perspective, it looks, so the piece comes together and you can view the whole glass.
This is our most photogenic piece. Asking like what's happening where,
Sorry, so we're done. Yeah. So we would like to do check us out.
Hi, I am Shishir Pankar, more popularly known as Troy. I run two startups. One is Curio, it's a crowdfunding platform for designers. There's Solidary, which is a 3D printing startup. I will talk about my story of Solidary and how I got started with Solidary. You can skip this. So, here's the 20 started when the first slide came around this. So my maker story is my maker story starts when I was a young boy, and normally makers we have started making since 10,000 years when 100,000 years back when people in the caves they started drawing designs in the walls of Africa. From then on, we have made different things. We have made the Great Wall of China, which is like seen from the moon. So we have outdone ourselves in terms of what we can do. But when the digital revolution came around, means computers, it just gave us so much more acceleration that we have started now. It gave us acceleration as well as it lowered the barrier to actually enter and make something. So you can make anything because of computers much more easily, and you can share them also much more easily. Arduino and other open electronics are the other platforms which came in while I was growing up. They they started making mashups of between software and hardware. So the things that you could make in the software world inside computers were now possible to be made in the real world as physical objects. So when this was happening, I was working at SlideShare and I had these intelligent techies all around. We were building open source software every day, and people were trying to build open source hardware. And that's when I started thinking that why don't I start building something of my own, not just code in software. Because I was a Bengali born and brought up. So in Bengali, once you are born, your parents start sending you to different classes where you learn music, you learn drawing and everything. So one thing that interested me was making things with computers. That's where GitHub comes in. If any of you have actually been to GitHub, it's an online code sharing site. So people from all over the world with similar interests coming together and collaborate and make software, and software which is used by all the big companies in the world. Once you are done with software, you start thinking making things, which was where I started doing things. So the place I went to was Make Magazine. Make Magazine has been a front runner in the maker movement. The maker fairs that are being organized all over the world is something that's pioneered by Make Magazine. So you should check out magazines as well as instructors. Instructors have made it much more easier for makers to start learning and sharing by making a step-by-step process where you can create a process and have like 10 steps to get it done. It's really, really easy. And the best thing about it is you can also, if you have learned something, you can start sharing it. DIY is a similar site as Instructables, but the good thing about it is it doesn't only focus on making things, but it also focuses on making skills. So a skill like gardening, if you want to pick up photography, you can just go to DIY.com and there are just steps which you can process, you can follow and start making things. Snap Guide is a similar thing to Instructables, but it has a really, really beautiful app on iOS. If you are an iOS user, you should check it out. It has really simple guides. It has guides on food, on art, on different topics. So while I was learning all these stuff, I came over Thingiverse. Thingiverse is a design sharing site. Designs as in designs which are 3D printable mainly. So You can look at the design, you want it, you just click print on your computer and you can have it. So Thingiverse made it very easy for people to share their designs with of physical objects. And with the advent of digital prototyping tools like the CNC machine, then a 3D printer and other subtractor, they actually made making things much more easier. That's when I got interested in 3D printing. That's when we started building our own 3D printer. And the interesting thing about Delhi Makers is Delhi Makers started as a 3D printing workshop. And there we tried to build our own 3D printer and we designed some things using Tinkercad. Tinkercad is an online platform where you can go, you can design 3D designs really easily. This is not the 3D printer that we made, but this is something that we have currently. So how a 3D printer works is it takes a material as input, like a plastic pyramid, and it melts it, and then by layer, it tries to create a physical object. We don't have the time to show a video, but a video of showing how a 3D printer works is really interesting. 3D printing also has gotten into food. People are making pizzas where layers of dough are just extruded out of a nozzle, and then you can have a 3D printed food. So NASA is actually now using 3D printed food for the astronauts. 3D printing jewelry is something that's really exciting because now the designs, think about engagement gifts. You go to a jeweler, you see some designs and you pick up your own. But with 3D printing jewelry, you can design your own design and then get it out as a 3D printed ring, as a real thing. China has just started printing 3D printed houses. It's like printing a house in a day's time. They printed about 10 houses in 10 days for 3 lakhs each. So this can really revolutionize the way how low cost housing is actually being made. So all this comes, the making experience that I had, I put it all into Solidary. It's a startup with 2 of my friends, and we 3 different designs which customers can give us or which ideas which we suggest. So all this experience of learning from software to hardware to 3D printing has all only made me experience one thing is that if you make, you are happy. So you should join in, start making things and share things because once you start sharing, you learn more and it gets much more interesting from there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark, and I did my bachelor's and master's from Delhi College of Art in Sculpture. And a good way I'm not much of a speaker, so I had dyslexia as a kid, so art is a way to express my. So this is a bulldog that I made in wax. So from this, first I made it in clay. Then after the clay process, I took it out in wax, which will be later melted and be made into bronze or aluminum. So for the aluminum to flow, there is pipes called runners and risers. The thicker one is where the aluminum will flow, and the other two is where it will come out. And for simpler ones, it's quite easy to put, but for more complex sculptures, it's an art to also put the runners and risers. So this is another piece that I made. And you have to make sure that the passage where the aluminum will flow smoothly so that there won't be any air bubbles. If there are air bubbles, then the whole piece will get spoiled. So this is the back, and the next one is the front. So you try not to touch the front of the sculpture so that the details of it won't get spoiled. And yeah, so you have to remember where you put it from. So the bigger one is usually how I indicate where I pour the bronze, and the smaller ones, it's where the metal will flow out. So this is in my rooftop. This is with the help of Drew because he also has a factory that melts stuff. So he told me how to do it. It took me more than 3 tries to melt it because the layer of the brick wasn't thick enough to keep the heat inside. So it took a long time. So I had bought an air blower from Charlie Bazaar for 500 rupees, and I just used my old silencer pipe from a bike to let the air flow through. And you can see the gaps are there, so it's not that good. That's why it takes longer for it to melt. So to help the process of melting, in the next slide I will show. But as you can see, as I switch it on, the whole, all the heat is escaping. So that's the problem. To help to have the heat stay constant, I leave a hole open so that I keep putting in coal and wood because I cannot keep the temperature within, so I just have to keep putting in wood and charcoal so the heat stays hot enough. To melt aluminum, we need around 800 degrees Celsius. Once the aluminum is melted, this is after my third try, which means after like 4 or 5 days. You add salt. By adding salt, it collects all the waste materials and makes it, it makes it a form of lump which doesn't mix with the aluminum. And using a metal rod, you just slowly scoop it out. The best way to do this is to have a small furnace of your own instead of always having to build one, because as you can see, it took me forever to actually melt it. So once it's melted, you just pick it up, and you have to be careful that it won't slip because there's no lock as such. Once you hold it, you pick it up. And like before you do all this, you have to weigh the wax. So if the wax is suppose 1 kg, it equals to 6 kgs of aluminum. So this is one step that I didn't show a picture of. The wax piece is kept inside a mixture of brick and POP. So that is strong enough to hold the heat when you pour it in. So the bigger hole is where it's called the runner. That's where the metal goes in. So once it goes in, and you keep it in a small pit of sand so that it doesn't expand. But usually for small pieces, it will not expand. But this for a precaution, I made a small. I dug a hole and kept it inside. So basically, you just pour and wait till it comes out, and you have to wait for at least maybe 20 to 30 minutes before you open it. If it's bigger sculptures, you should wait a whole day. Like in college, we had like works which weighed more than 20 kilos. So if you open it right away, the air, you just cool it down very fast, so the work can crack. So this is after pouring. So you just wait. I just waited for maybe 20 minutes or so. And it's always fun opening it because you don't know if you've done it correctly or not. So in the next step, it has come out correctly. So basically, whatever you had inside as wax, it will come out exactly in aluminum or bronze or whatever, if you've done the runners and risers correctly. And after doing this, you just cut it off and you can take it to a buffer to shine it. After the presentation, I will pass around this bulldog that I made that you all can see. So this one is do it yourself, so this I did in my house. But the next picture is a drawing that I did of a bulldog. And with the help of Drew, through his SolidWorks, design software thing, so he printed this out. So this process is in a sense easier for me because I don't have to make it in clay. So he printed out my design with the printer, and the process of casting this is sand casting. So I give it to someone else and they will form it. But the machine really helps in not like I don't have to spend time in making it. This is basically just printing the piece. If you would like, you can all pass it around. Give it back.
Hi everybody, I'm Pecha and I make wedding cards. And today I'm here to talk about the frivolous nature of this industry. 10 years ago, the only thing you would see in wedding cards was your Taya, Chacha, Mama. They would go down to Chowdi Bazaar and get this handmade paper thing and, come back, and that's what it was all about. Today, well, the sky is the limit when it comes to wedding cards. You have things where, when you open them, you have 3D pop-outs, you have a variety of gifts that go inside it. So it all depends on what you want. So let me tell you a bit about how I started making. When I was a kid, I loved experimenting, I loved baking, I loved getting into things. So, just taking things apart and getting to know what it was. And, coming from a background where my dad was a mechanical engineer and he went into the government industry. So it was just ingrained in me that, I wanted to do something with design or creative things coming from such background. But, so I went to NIFT after that, and if anybody's been there and done the course that I did, I'm sorry, but the only thing you actually learn there is how to do jugaad, is getting work done, right? So it makes you think out of the box how to get your work done. You're given an assignment, you go around town and you find the one tailor who can do it when you don't know how to stitch anything. So that's what it was. And so after I graduated, I worked odd jobs here and there everywhere. And everywhere I worked, I happened to get into the printing or the packaging part of it. I went to go to study. I decided to get into accessories at that point of time. I studied in Milan. I did accessory design. I did shoes, jewelry, bags, everything. And even then, every time I was presenting something, I was concentrating more on the packaging end of it and the last part. So I came back and I opened this creative agency with a couple of friends called Pataka Design Studio. Warning here, never work with best friends, it does not work. So this Pataka fizzled out, and then my sort of Prince Charming came along, where somebody asked me that, so an aunt asked me that, can you make my daughter's wedding card? I'm like, sure, I'm at a loose end, I don't know what to do, and I did that. And just so happened, when people got it, they really liked it, and I kept getting calls, and I had no work, so that's how I came into this industry. So that's my little friend Charming. And so today I design wedding cards. We do everything from portleys. We work with a variety of materials, from rexine to fabrics to all sorts of stationery, all your gifts that go inside your boxes or your cards, variety of things. These are the kind of things that we've done. The whole process when you're doing a wedding card, it starts with your save the date. Your save the date can be done as a regular e-card, we can do fridge magnets, we can do, we print on acrylic, we print on a variety of materials. You want little badges which have the save the date, any sort of souvenir, we'll do that. So after you do this save the date, we come down to making the actual invite. Now your invite depends on what you want to give inside. We've done 31 flavors of mystery, believe it or not, as a gift inside a box. We've done customized acrylic safari boxes. We've done customized, all your guest names are printed on shawls that you want to give inside. The sky's the limit. What we started recently is we're doing recyclable, eco-friendly cards for all those people who are, very eco-friendly. Doesn't make sense because you're getting stuff which is really crappy inside anyways. But yeah, that's some of the things that we do. We also do the really old-fashioned scully with satin finish, with all your gold pictures, with your quarterly invite you, request you, benign presents, all the words inside it, open a thesaurus, all the words are there. So that's some of the stuff that we do. This was actually done for a French couple who had an Indian-themed wedding in Bordeaux. So this is called Ganesh Ji the Taj. We did a card which had real gold printing, 24 karat gold electroplating on it. A souvenir which was done with that, which had customized incense and a stand and customized matchboxes. We had a little couple who was in the film industry and they wanted customized series done for themselves as their invite. So some of the text says stuff like Mahurat shot and all that. There, as you can see, some of the weird characters inspired by. So, pop art. For all your favors, we do things like notebooks, We do these little really cute posters with customized hangings with parrots and all to match. You want marigolds, parrots, anything, we'll customize it for you. So that's partly a lot what I do. So what Namrata was talking about the reality show that I was on, the real thing. We also do hangover kits for your weddings. Post all the hangover of all the weddings. I did this show called Shadi Teen Crore Ki, which is the biggest mistake of my life, where I walk onto the set and the old Dadi Ma sees me wearing a purple t-shirt and she says, ये तो मेरा फेवरेट कलर है पूरा डब्बा पर्पल होना चाहिए so that's the clientele that I deal with. We're going live soon online and you can buy all your frivolous items online. You can match your boxes, your save the dates, anything you want to do. You want to do customized chocolates, you want to do 31 flavors of mystery, you're welcome to that. So what we do here is we mix a bit of, when we make our boxes, we mix traditional ways of making with contemporary ways. So you have your e-cards, you have your digital websites and all that as well. But all our cards are printed in old-fashioned stiff screen thermography that is pressed. And it takes a whole team to do this entire job. We started with one person, me, who used to do everything when I started out, and I used to employ my family to tie all the ribbons 5 years ago. Today we're a team of 25 people who work with me, and we create these multiple phenomenons. And just like that, it's the whole story of my life. Different experiences melt down to one little Mickey Mouse. So that's the thing. And so if you want to get in touch with me, anybody who's getting married, bridegroom, mother of the bride, future auntie of any dulha who's getting married, you can follow me and get my details here. Thank you. Done? Yeah.
Hello,
Just 2 or 3 like
my name is Abhimanyu.
That's it. 3 like.
Today I'm going to present a PPT to you about making robots. So on the first slide you see some steps. It stands for everything starts with the first step. My first step was nothing spectacular. It was just watching a movie. When I started, I was about 4 years old. So this was the movie. It was called Star Wars, and these are the main droids of it, C-3PO and R2-D2. I was very excited by both of them, especially R2-D2. So then one day my parents got me some toys which had sensors and all that cool stuff, and it was remote controlled. So then I decided to make my own. So this is a small prototype of the R2-D2. The prototype was basically made to iron out all the mistakes that we'll make. So it was made out of cardboard, and that's a small blueprint in my A4 paper. So that's me in the science fair. I'm in the Sri Ram school, and that's the R2-D2 fair model, and that's the royal blueprint, and those are all the people, and that's me. The R2-D2 has 2 motors attached to a wheel, which have a 12-volt battery attached to it because it's very heavy. It's about 10 kilos, so it needs lots of power. And there's a small torch on top which has a 9-volt battery. And unfortunately I can't bring it because my dog had nothing else to chew, and we were outside the house, so she demolished it in 1 hour, and we came back home and we found it in pieces. So then I got interested in this cool like Lego kind of kit. It was called Mindstorms. It's programmable, so you can see those two robots. You can make a Alpha Rex, which is like a humanoid kind of robot, and that's a like a shooter, and you can program it to solve the Rubik's cube like that. And this is a creation that I made out of the Mindstorm. It was like a robotic hand, and it can grip things, and it can serve coffee and tea to the whole house. So then I got interested in this other kit. It's a bit better than Mindstorm because you make it with a screwdriver and it's more enjoyable. So it's called the Robotronics. There are three versions of it: Robotronics Lite, Robotronics Mini, and Robotronics Full. So then there are these competitions held for it. They're called the RRC 2014, and those are my two teammates. They're called Arjun and Zai, and we participated in this competition. So those are our two robots. Our problem statement was to make a pair of wired or wireless robots that can protect the monuments of India. So the first one was a robotic crane with a pusher part behind it, and the second one was a robotic shovel which had a pusher part behind it, and that's me in the competition. There were three of us, so we kept shuffling our tasks, and those are all the monuments, and those are the two robots. We came second in the competition, and we're gonna get silver medals. So then I got introduced to this cool technology. They were based on printers. Now these are the printers we use every day. For example, HP Ink Advantage printers, LaserJet Pro printers. But these printers are very advanced and they're going to change the future. They're called 3D printers. This is the MakerBot, and the printing quality is quite good. And 3D printers are like the hottest things to do these days. NASA is making rockets out of 3D printers. They print titanium, some of them. So there's this cool new gadget that's gonna come out. It's almost released. So this is called a 3 doodler. It's like a 3D printer with. It's like a laptop version of a 3D printer. It's portable. You can take it with you in your pocket and you can print immediately. It's like a 3D printing pen. You just draw on the floor and then you go in the air. So this is the Arduino board. It's like the motherboard of the printer. You can program it and make many things, like suppose a video game console or a Lumench one, and that I'm going to explain in the next slide. So this is the Lumench one. It's a cool lamp. When you wave your hand on top of it, it gets on or off. And when you put your hand, raise your hand, it becomes brighter, and when you put it down, it's dark. So another thing that was in the 25 greatest magazines, it was in the Time magazine. So it's the Oculus Rift. It's a virtual reality headset. You put it on your face, and then you're like in the game. You see illusions all around you. So this is the last slide. It's showing a light bulb. A light bulb is usually meant for an idea, and this is like nature inside it. So it basically stands for think today and make a brighter future with technology.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here. Paper Jewels is made with recycled paper. It's about creativity, it's about your personality, it's about your personal style. Like it's about having a lot of fun. Now this is what it looked like in 1992. That's my sister's MBA notes right there. That one. Yes. And of course I went on to my own college notes. and I went on to brother's college notes and my father's balance sheets. I think that's somebody's, I don't know, somebody's notebook. I think it's my sister's psychology notes. Anyway, so I make paper beads of different sizes and I put them together into different shapes. Yeah, that's the MTNL telephone directory right there. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. Yeah, you can see the writing in some of this here. Right here. So anyway, basically when I started out way back in 1992, it was, uh, I don't know, nobody really did something so innovative or so different or whatever. So I was basically having fun. I was experimenting. My tools are very basic, as you can see, pliers, scissors, needles, all sorts of things. Um, it's a lot of fun. It's a series of experiments and it's a series of experiments gone wrong. In 1998, came in the Asian Age and then came L afterwards. Now I'm from Kanpur. In Kanpur, this is a very big deal to come in L. All those years ago, 20 years ago, hardly anything happening. After that, I decided to do like a lot more innovative stuff. You see, it's paper, it's light. You can do any color. It's weightless. I decided to make, of course, long necklaces, bustiers. I made mounting stuff. I made rings. I made all sorts of crazy things. Now, when you're having fun, it's really infectious. Yes. You're having fun. Other people start to have fun. And yeah, there were people even who started copying my work. So I said, okay, what do I do now? You just take it to the next level. You just move up, you do wild stuff, you do crazy stuff, you be true to yourself, and you enjoy yourself, other people enjoy themselves, and your clientele increases like according to that. Lots of different earrings, lots of different necklaces. As you can see, I use a lot of different materials as well. That one is all paper, completely paper, along with a bit of thread to put it together, of course. I used a lot of innovative threading techniques because at that time there was no YouTube. Nobody could teach you what to do. So I had to sort of just figure it out as I went along. So these are the slightly more complicated pieces right here. And I've got some pieces here in case you'd like to see later. I'm very nervous, excuse me. Yeah, these are among my really favorite pieces. That one comes like all the way down to the navel. This one is with malachite. That one's called Cleopatra. Some of my very, very favorite pieces. I'm wearing one which is made out of the leftover pieces from all of these. Now, by the way, I used to fail in art and craft. And I can't paint to save my life, although I have to do a lot of painting here. This is my version of semi-precious and gold and diamond stuff. That's what I'm trained in, by the way. But what I used to churn out used to be quite horrendous. Poonam Bhagat, I've worked with her over the years many times. Lots of very nice jewelry with her. Yeah, these are all necklaces made completely from paper. We had a lot of interesting celebrities also wearing jewelry at the time on the ramp, so that was fun. It's quite fun to say Deepika Padukone was my earring. Anyway, but she uses a lot of different styles of the jewelry that I made. This is from an opera in New York, Lala Rook, that happened in December of 2012. And this was a really huge deal for me. I mean, it's in New York. Yeah. Then there were some more celebrity pictures with Anuja's, Sonam Kapoor. Suddenly everybody gets interested. Hollywood, Hollywood, So that was quite fun. And yeah, I'm hoping to learn, I'm hoping to grow, I'm hoping to take it like several steps further, and why not? This is my favorite piece. It's huge. It's a cape that I did for Absolute Vodka way back, and I still remember, when this lady, she came up to the ramp and she opened the cape, and 200 people went silent, and that was quite a moment for me. You see these blue things, they were Absolute Vodka bottles. My mom, my favorite model, my um, my critic, my fan, lots of things, biggest supporter. Yeah, and that's my cousin, my sisters, lots of people, and they all wear paper jewels. So thank you all for inviting me. Um, Paper jewels, I've made paper jewels, but it's also made me in a lot of ways and brought me out of my shell. So um, I've enjoyed it for 22 years, and I hope to enjoy it for many more. Thank
Hi everyone. My name is Rajiv Palakshappa. There isn't a photo of me, so apologies for sending out our information a bit late. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about a space that's developing in Sayur Jump, just near the Saket metro station. It's a bit of a, what I'm going to be talking about is a bit of a journey from how we've taken a space and turned it from a chicken shed into something that we're hoping will be something of a room for expression. So around the middle of last year, a friend of ours, there's actually 7 individuals involved in developing Pecha, and we sort of rolled up our sleeves. One of us had found the space, and we sort of got stuck in to start cleaning it up. We didn't really do it with any sort of picture of what we wanted it to be, but with a bit of hard work and elbow grease, we started to see that something had started to take shape. So Pecha, for those whose Hindi is as bad as mine, actually means bit of a ruckus or chaos. You would have seen Pecha there, which is actually a Spanish term for a space where a group of young individuals rent out, for example, a basement in a flat to sort of hang out and host parties. So that's something that Pecha started to become. We started experimenting with activities. We had some musicians come along, a bit of theatre, a few plays. So we started to really sort of transition from, I guess, poultry to poetry, and had a couple of gigs and acts starting to take place. It wasn't any sort of forced movement towards music or any one particular activity. We had the Tadpole Repertory come and do a couple of nights of theatre. We had a London company by the name of Vacuum Theatre come and have a couple of experimental performances. Again, our safe zone is always a bit of music because people get into that. A couple of other activities that we've had is an experimental play by Seema Power, who's, I don't know if it was Bollywood, but she had an interactive play where she sort of cooked a meal for the audience. We've had Tripla Sinha do a couple of performances. One of my favourite acts, Imperial Kyrgyzstan. They're a French brass band that happened to be in town, and through various connections ended up at Pecha to do an impromptu performance. They kind of embody the sort of ad hoc and chaotic nature of what it is that we do. But then things started to get a little bit more serious, and I think the first sort of grown-up activity that we really had was the Red Bull Music Academy. They sort of kicked off their event at Pecha, and that was a bit of a big event for us. But it also included, I think, the German DJ Motorselector. And we sort of felt that it brought together not just musicians, theatre, but also people that A, hadn't been to Sayur Job before, but secondly, we started to get a feeling that there wasn't really a space in Delhi where people could sort of come in and do what they wanted. So jump from a fairly organised, large event to something that was basically a graphic designer who put together a set of all photographers, and had a slideshow one evening. Or the photo editor for Paramount actually, but I shouldn't understand what he's done. We also had Animal, a graphic design company, who had 101 artists from around the world sort of redesign the Animal logo, and over a weekend we had that displayed at Pecha. We've sort of also had a little bit of fashion in the form of Troika, who had a weekend of fashion shows and experimental fashion. Again, utilising the space in quite a lovely manner. But we are sort of starting to sort of get a feel for the things that we like to do. So it's kind of a journey in itself. Earlier in May, we had the guys from Curio host sort of a weekend Makers Festival. Some of you may have even attended. It's a fantastic 3 days of young entrepreneurs, designers, makers coming together to bring together sort of their works, but in an open and sort of engaging environment that everyone can be a part of. Icing on the cake, we had a bit of opera just for the sake of it. So, sorry, there's just a couple more slides of the makers and doers that kind of make up the space. A bit of delicious food from the Jugmug Pela, which is a small and developing coffee and tea stall, and of course we always come back to music because it's good for the soul. But through the course of these 3 days and kind of building up from the activities, we start to, as I mentioned, get a bit of a feel for what we like to see at the space. It's kind of engaging, exciting, and creative individuals who don't necessarily have the space to do the things that they love to do. So what we're actually trying to do is, right next door to Pecha, we also have a wood workshop. So I guess space isn't everything, as mentioned earlier, but we are developing a space for those who need it. Especially, I think your landlord might be happy not having like a furnace on top of their roof, so you can come do that at our place. So I think this is the last slide. That's our door. Please come use it and come in and have a look. But we're just really trying to create a space where innovative individuals can come, experiment, and develop ideas. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sneha and I'm an industrial designer. Just wait for my slides to come on. So I'm going to talk about making and craft and process and the effect that time frames can have on this. And so I'm doing this by contrasting two projects, one where time frame is 3 days and the other one where it's 2 months. And so in industrial design generally the idea is that it's a process where you're supposed to make beautiful and functional objects, but the end result is supposed to be fast manufacturing. So this project I thought was really interesting because it was about repurposing found objects, and this is a theme that was given to us in my first design studio in college. So I went to a thrift store, and it's kind of a jungle in there, like an assortment of items. It's really just your luck as to what to design. And on the right are some objects that you would see on design boards, which would make it appear that design is synonymous with being expensive. Doesn't have to be. So these are some of the things that I found at the store that I came home with. There was some ice skates, there was some snorkeling slippers, and then I found these wooden tennis rackets. So I thought maybe I could make a knife or something with the skates. I thought I could do a door stopper with the slippers, and then I set some tennis rackets. So what I did is I chopped them up, and I attached these iron bars to the base. And then I tacked well with the
center together to get some stability. And I hadn't learned how to weld, so I had to study on the day off. And so I ended up making a table. So it could be a center table. I had some roommates that would put their laptops on it and sit and use it. So I guess it kind of reverses the process of it, because normally with product design you use raw materials to turn it into something else, but here I'm in the other way. And the second project is one where I was trying to work with cement, and so the theme was comfort for the semester, so I was trying to see if I could make an uncomfortable material comfortable. So when most people look at cement, they think of words like hard and stuff. And so I was wandering around school, and the architects are obviously very familiar with cement, and they make beautiful things with it, but it's more experiential, it's on a different scale. But they use this material called rawhide to make their models, to kind of go with the same sense. So I began playing with it, and so these are some of the tools that I use. There's rawhide, there's gloves for safety, and then there's popsicle sticks to mix it all up. And then the other two items on the right I'll tell you about in a little bit. But it's expansion cement, so normally it's used to fill in little holes and patch things out. So I experimented with casting a little. So generally with casting you have a mold, and so maybe a 2-part mold or a 3-part mold, and you mix in the material, you pour it in, and you let it set. So I just tried using different materials like corrugated cardboard, foam that I'll tell you about. So this one, the one on the right, I used a fabric mold, so I just scrunched up some fabric and solidified it and poured into that. So I was just trying to understand the properties of what I could do with cement. So this taught me a lot about the texture, because it used to just grab onto everything and the cloth wouldn't even come out. And then I also experimented with CNCing a bit. So casting has been around a long time, but CNCing is a reductive process where it carves into foam. And so the image on the right is when, after the pattern has been carved out, you can make a new mold out of silicone, and you can reuse that one as much as you want. So the problem with foam is it disintegrates. So with materials like this, you can replicate the same thing again and again. So this I just carried some barnacles out, CNC'd it and cast into that. And then this is, I was looking at objects, and so I was trying to find objects where weight was an advantage instead of a disadvantage. So I tried to make shot glasses, and then I realized that it's not really food grade. And then I made some bowls, and I tried to make holes in it, so I was trying to stitch through concrete. And the way I ended up doing that is by poking holes to it while it was setting. It takes 5 minutes to set. And then I used origami, so I used some paper, and this turned out to be frustrating as well, because I made my paper mold. It took me hours to fold that, and then I poured it once, and it just kind of disintegrated and disappeared. Then I got interested with the idea of the movement with the origami, so I tried to make a bag, and I did this by laser cutting flat pieces and gluing them on to a very thick fabric that I thought would be good for this, but it turned out that then the glue didn't want to match with the industrial fabric. So, but I still wanted to work with movement and trying to make it move. So then I looked around, and I went contact lenses, and I had a lot of the cases left over, and I thought that the cases worked really well because they were plastic, so you didn't need mold release to get the concrete to pop back out. It's like a lubricant, like Vaseline. And so I was trying to eliminate the glue also earlier from the bag. So I tiled out my contacts, and I found a way to lay cloth over it, pour half the concrete in, and then just pour little dabs on the top, and let the whole thing seal over itself. And so I ended up making a scarf out of concrete. And so it was an interesting material experiment, although this, it's not functional. In fact, it does the opposite of a scarf, because it would draw out heat from the body instead of protect you. But I did learn a lot about casting, and so even if it doesn't end up in a final product, you can apply that to when you come up with things in the future. And so these are the iterations that I had for the first project. I just made a paper model. And the second one was what went on for 2 months. So this kind of shows how when you have 3 days, you have to just kind of go for it. Collaborative, so we're going to try not to step on each other. I'm a pastry chef. I'm new to business. I hope you guys will meet him. The idea about we basically collaborated and made a film on pastries, on chocolate fondant. I've been a pastry chef for about 2 years. Pastry making is an art. I realized that. Usually it sounds.
So I'm Ravi, and like every other Indian, I got into engineering, then figured out what I want to do. And so I'm an avid cinephile, and that's how I got into speaking and really make some intense stories.
I started off, I really liked the norm of actually getting a psychology degree and changed my path and then took up a course in bakery and patisserie at ICA. After that, I went to the Vita and I realized mass production and long shifts wasn't for me. I picked up a lot of techniques along the way.
So I didn't go through a film school, and the director of mine, Richard Linklater, who said when people asked him what training he got, he said he just went to Stanford Film School, which basically meant picking up a camera and start shooting wherever you go. So that's somewhat why I just started picking up the camera.
Okay, so going back to the slide, so baking started off as a form of catharsis. I think I've heard that you visit your happy space, and so it was a route of escape for them until I realized I was actually good and I could create things that made people that, you know, the sharing aspect was there. I could create people, make it really happy and stuff. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I decided to take it up on a more educated platform, and then really just work on things that create joy.
So, for me, I really like stories, and I think everybody loves stories, and that's why I wanted to tell stories. And making it just a medium. Filmmaking is just a medium for me to tell stories. I can pick up any other medium to read things, stories, and it's like a form of escapism for me to where everything is perfect compared to real life. And I thought I really wanted to give that to students. So by making films where you will just forget about life and just immerse yourself in this another reality. That's what I wanted to give to the world. So our collaboration started when I had to make this observation film for a workshop where I had to just shoot somebody without any story, without any dialogues. So there was this thing, there's a power of food in film, and I wanted to make something which I really wanted watch to audience to be hungry after that. So that's why I wanted to make one pastry.
Yeah, and who doesn't like films with food? I think when he approached me, I was just excited to just grab the opportunity and see how different forms of art just fuse together and create something beautiful, which Robbie did very well. So my inspiration, obviously, because we're discussing films and things, films are my biggest inspiration. I've pretty much, we've all grown up and watched films, but for me, it was more like an every weekend thing. My mum's here, she has lots of stories. We used to basically watch film and follow up with dinner. So that's really made me just who I am as a person today. These are some of the good movies that you should definitely watch.
So, Tarantino said that there was a power of food when you wanted to make this from the Glorious Bastards. You wanted to, make them dream a student after that. Similarly, with Pulp Fiction, that burger he really wanted to go like can burger after that. That was the power of food. That's what I wanted to catch.
We're going to discuss the process basically. I don't really walk into a kitchen with preconceived ideas from a recipe book or something. I think those are just guidelines you take up, but the rest is instinct, or the rest is, because baking is such a hands-on process, it's a traditional process, you should just get straight into it. So, if you want to stack some more butter in your cakes, just go for it. But I do use a process called chunking or flashcards. I like to break down, because to rely on memory. I like to break down my recipes into smaller parts. I also carry flashcards with measurements and numbers out my friend. That just improves my memory and really keeps me calm when I'm asked to create.
My process is like I usually every day I just jot down the ideas, whatever I observe, and put them down in pretty cool Star Wars moleskin notebook, or especially because of Star Wars. And then once I have an idea or whatever, an insight, I'm going to tailor a story around it. Then your process starts. So you just write, shoot, edit, repeat. Just just practice, practice. The more you write, the more you shoot, the more you edit. That's how you get perfect. So that is what I
So as a creator, you're just never satisfied with the final product. This is a product I made, probably my third product in the last year and stuff. It was successful because people loved it. I loved it too. I was really proud of it. But as a creator, there's just so much more you can do, and there's an abundance of talent out there, and it's a humbling experience to just take it and learn from it, grow.
So Tessa said the greatest thrill for inventors who watch this invention come alive. That's how I feel about my films also. It's usually like a romance. You start the romance, you romance the idea, and you fall in love, and you get married, or you make the film. But after it's done, you just divorce it.
Okay, that's my favorite film, Julie and Julie. I think most of you could have not seen it. That's the scene where she basically finishes the challenge of creating 524th recipe in a year. That's the stuff that really gets us going, to be able to sort of create something that a lot of people. I keep touching on the same thing, but that's the creative boon, I guess.
I believe in you are what you eat, and by eat I don't mean food, but the music you listen to, the books you read, the films you watch. So I just want to draw all the influence I get from my everyday life and then pour it all into my stories.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely hungry. But on that note of bringing different kinds of making together and collaborating, I want to hand the mic over to Shiv, who has a couple of questions for everybody about what should a makers community really do.
Yeah, I mean, the presentations are awesome. But yeah, I just wanted to put the question out there to the audience to get feedback. What do you think a makers group should be? We have a diverse range of disciplines over here, but if anyone's willing to sort of speak up about how they would make a makers or how they would bring together a diverse range of disciplines to create things that people are excited about, where they can learn new things. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Brother. Yeah. Basically, what we should do is look at the Facebook page a lot. So basically, actually, have its own car also, and I'm involved in other. We've got a furniture manufacturing unit. What we should do is get out and make something basically. I should make my stuff on a car about 10 years back. Now, worked on a CNC, we just made a couple of CNC routers in a factory. And I don't know, we should actually get out and do something, build something. But it's not.
I am Vinay, I'm an entrepreneur. I think with a lot of the interesting things that people are creating here, one of the key things to factor in is that film costs money. And creativity has to go hand in hand with some degree of understanding of how to commercialize some of these innovations and creations. And I think that's one of the big disconnects that you tend to find with a lot of creative endeavors. How do you get that out, and how are you able to monetize it so that you can then continue to create and continue to be creative? So I think that's something that needs to be further discussed and further educate them in terms of community. It's something that will benefit everyone.
Hi, Kanditi. Recently, I was part of a fellowship which was documenting the makers in Ahmedabad, and I thought we could do something like that in Delhi, where we actually go to different parts of Delhi, maybe older parts, newer parts, and actually meet people who have been working on certain things for years together. They have this in their heredity, and that documentation I think is necessary. So also for us to actually go out, meet more people who are doing hands-on stuff.
Just adding to what is being said before, I think since all of us have some kind of manufacturing unit or we're making so to say from a particular place, I think visits to these sort of I go to somebody else's factory, somebody else visits my factory, that could be added to this.
I think we should have a maker event where we divide everyone in teams and let them collaborate their different arts and actually create something. So have a theme and just let them create something. So that way, I mean, especially because Delhi makers is just starting out, people can get to know each other, on a more personal level, and actually have them do something outside of what they usually do. See, we are all making something different. We're making something new. And to be able to explain to somebody else, like, okay, this jewelry is gonna look good on you, or this product is, something really interesting that you should go in for. People don't understand. They're not able to visualize things that are so completely different. So to be able to explain and make them understand that, okay, hey, try something different. I think that is one of the biggest challenges, and I think, like mentioned earlier, it has to be commercially viable also. People can just turn around and say, "Oh, इसमें तो glass bead है, इतना क्यों charge कर रहे हो?" I've been asked that, and people ask stupid questions. People don't completely understand the kind of different stuff that we do, and all these silly questions, but you don't even understand how to respond to them. People ask me if my jewelry is washable. I mean, what do you say to that? To be able to explain to people how to visualize this particular product, the interesting furniture, the baking, nobody understands the amount of work that goes into it and all that. So, the balance is of course very important, but to make them understand is just as important.
So I think one of the things that sort of came up in some of the things that people were talking about is just access to resources. So I know you have your own furniture studio, and then Hira sort of has their own wood shop and a bunch of stuff that I read. Would anyone like to talk about how they go about finding resources to create the things that they want to make but don't necessarily have those resources within their means? Okay, so my name is Vishal. I speak for myself here. It's great to see people making things, actually creating some stuff. Some of us do not have that set of being able to create something like you guys. But as talking with the resources and taking forward, we could help with the marketing or any of sort of stuff that people need help with. So makerspaces probably could have some kind of network or something where we could just give our services. Since we like to contribute to the space, but we cannot make something to it, that's all. So I don't know how to best do it.
Just this very small input, the fantastic designers, as he said, they're not able to make anything. But if you guys are able to make, I believe you are able to solve also. And there might be problems outside of your own domain that you might want to solve. And there is IDEO.org, but there is only IDEO.org.
Basically, share and care.
whoever has a manufacturing unit, hair suppliers, we've got a lot of suppliers like our world. We've got the medical solutions and many business also. We share it there.
You raised an important point about being resourceful, and one of the things I found in the last 2 years of being an entrepreneur is mentors are one of the most crucial aspects of access to resources and understanding where those resources are, be it talent, be it capital, be it factories. And one of the things you could do is do a maker mentors. You know, there's established mentor makers who have been doing this for years, who understand how to create, who understand and have a network that can support the younger mentors, and have an allocation system where you have 2 or 3 younger makers who are allocated to a senior mentor. And that's something that will definitely accelerate the creativity and get people more involved.
Hi, I'm Chen. I've been following the maker community all over the world, and one concept I like very much is that they have these hackathons which are 24-hour competitions. So they divide the whole group into 10 teams, 5 teams, any number of teams, and then talking about the resources, every member in the team contributes. For example, I bring my 3D printers, I'm into robotics, someone brings the soldering irons, and then they have their Red Bull stack up. They work on a project continuously 24 hours, so it basically brings the whole team together, and it solves the problem of resources. We can all contribute, and for example, baking, she can help guiding, and then we can bring us up. We have a lot of people from all sides of technology, so we have a lot of stuff. We just need to contribute and then work practically so that we can learn instead of talking. We could just make and learn.
So I'm actually going to go back to your question about how we can actually help each other. Like a person like me, I work with 100 different materials. I work with wood, I work with acrylic. When I started working with acrylic, I didn't know how to piece it together. So if, if I had to ask a person like Drobo, my brother's son, who's an engineer, get ideas how to work on these together. So I think just to form up like a directory of people in assist each other. I mean, if you're working with wood, I could like call up and ask, what's the right way to do this? What is the right form of paint to use, or something like that. So I think that's something that could really work.
Yeah, I think a catalog of resources would be really easy to use and anybody could have. But yeah, if anybody else has any questions to the speakers or to the rest of the audience,
Events, I think Anirudh does Startup Weekend, which does something really similar to hackathons and things like that. I don't know. Anirudh, you want to tell them about Startup Weekend? What we can do for makers? And also there's Jugadathon with Sahil, others organized, which is something similar.
Startup Weekend is a 24-hour hackathon which is done in different teams. We've just done a maker hackathon in Bangalore, and I'm actually right now planning one in Delhi. So we're trying to figure out where we can do that. So maybe mid of August or daily probably have the whole one out here. So Delhi.startupweekend.org. Stay tuned for that. Figure out what to do.
any more questions or comments?
Amongst other things, I'm Abhimanyu's dad. So one of the things we were looking at was, the exciting projects they released. And we saw the Bloodhound project. So for those who don't know, it's this project where they're making the fastest car with a 1,000 miles per hour. So one of the projects makers in Delhi could do, while I was involved with you guys in making 3D printer, is that we figure out what is that one thing we could make which is first to the world or something, because first talent here, and that can get a whole group behind it and give it a side project. And when something inspiring like that is done, I mean, not something that you learn out, but smaller things that there's a lot of people who their efforts in. And linked to that, I mean, one of the other skills I have is internet, monetization on the internet with video platforms and same. So there's a lot of pool which can get generated and a lot of online funds can be collected.
you have any?
Alright.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. The bar is open again if you still want some beers. And thank you very much to our speakers for being here and sharing your stories. And everyone on Akshar's team and CTF and Shiv and Shweta and everyone who has put this together. Thank you so much.